Hello. Welcome to
Hello.
Reading Sprint. I nearly said Thursday Reading Sprints, and I was like, no, it's Monday. I just thought I'd throw in some extra reading sprints because I really need to get some work done. And I thought, reading sprints, that's when I'm most productive. And Lizzie has been known to work magic when you're here somehow. You got like a teacher vibe about you that makes me feel I want to work. I don't know. I know I have a teacher vibe too as next teacher, so I know we can do this together. It's nice to see you. It feels like it's been ages. I can't actually remember when we last did this together.
It has been ages, but then Have
we done it this year? Like, I can't remember.
I don't think so. I've been MIA for quite a while with YouTube. I'm just kind of working my way into not beating myself up if I haven't got a video up. I'm trying to be a bit more relaxed because YouTube and reading it's not a hostage situation. Like it's meant to be relaxing and fun, and I have to keep reminding myself of that. So I'm still just getting back.
Honestly, it's so difficult. I find if I'm not reading much in a month, I feel guilty and I'm trying to read faster. And I'm like, this reading is actually meant to be for pleasure. I think social media sometimes like confuses us and makes us think we've got to read 40 books a month. And if that's what you do, that's great and fine. But it's not what I do. And I've got to remember that, like, it's different for everybody. Like some people read pretty much full time and some people like you have, a full-time job plus.
Mm-hmm. I have found now, though, that now I'm back in a desk job full time. I do listen to an awful lot of audiobooks.
Yeah.
So that's kind of really been my saving grace with reading, is I know that I can listen to an audiobook. Although I'm reading a book that should not be taking me this long, and I listen to like an hour like every day. So I'm like, I've been listening to this book for 12 weeks now. I probably should have finished it.
What book is it?
It's the second to the God Killer, Sunbringer.
Oh, okay. Is it quite long or is it just...
No, it's really short. It's really, really short. But because I'm listening into such short increments, it's just taking forever.
I've got Empire of the Vampire sitting waiting for me, and every time I look, and I'm like, how many hours is it? Like 20 plus hours, I think.
I loved Empire of the Vampire so much. I've got the sequel staring at me from my shelves. I'm like, no, you are such a big, beefy book. I need to finish some books before I can start you.
I wonder if I'm going away for a few days in June. I'm wondering, I normally take like one physical book or a couple of physical books and then my Kindle. And I'm wondering if I actually need to take one really chunky, like hold it in my hands to get on the plane. Or I could just listen to the audiobook. That might be more sensible. I just can't listen to the audiobook. I'd have to have headphones because like when a small person is around, I generally don't audiobook. And that one would be especially bad to audiobook, I feel, in front of a small child.
Yes, quite violent. But also the physical does have some really cool pictures, so you might miss something if you listen to the audiobook. That's the only thing I would say.
Yeah, I wonder if I do audiobook it, I need to periodically like check the book for the illustrations on the bit I've just read, like listen to a chapter, check for illustrations. I find that when I'm driving, generally is the time that I listen to audiobooks if there's nobody in the car with me or if I'm doing housework and there's nobody in. So it's very like niche moments where I'm alone right now.
Yeah.
So what are you? Is that what you're gonna be? Are you gonna be listening to that tonight, or are you physical?
No, I am going to physically read. So the first sprint, I'm going to eat my dinner. So I'll probably watch YouTube and not do much in the first sprint, but that's okay. That's fine.
It is.
Then I'm going to try and continue on my read of Ithaca by Claire North, which is a Odysseus and Penelope retelling, but it's mostly about Penelope and not Odysseus because Odysseus has had his moment. So this is Penelope's moment. And I haven't got very far. I don't know if it's just because I'm just not in the mood for this type of mythology, fantasy type thing. I don't know. So I'm struggling a little bit. And I know I just said I wasn't going to start anything new. And I'm a massive hypocrite because if I don't get onto this, I've also had something that arrived relatively not that long ago. And I really want to read it. I was supposed to read it for Aurelium and I didn't get to it. But it's Middle Game by Shauna Maguire.
Ooh. I love that cover so much. Can we just take a moment for that cover? That's awesome.
It has been on my radar for ages, like ages and ages and ages. And I really like the novella that she did, the Wayward Children series.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really interested in this because this is obviously her horror. And I'm just really intrigued to see how the writing style, because this is a huge book too.
Yeah, it is.
But I feel like I know Shauna Maguire's writing and I know that I get through it really fast. And also, I feel like it matches my whole vibe. I kind of feel like I should be reading this.
It does. It looks kind of like you need a print of that. What's it called again?
Middle game.
Middle game. Got it. Oh, where's my computer so slow? Okay. Right, I put that there because I feel like I always forget to write down the names of books in these. Then I go back and have to like watch and try and find the bit where we're discussing it. So I'm reading this book, but I'm not probably going to read it tonight. The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which is a fantasy, and that's not normally my thing. But because it's vampires and it's like violent fantasy, I'm fine with it. It's like vampires fighting to the death with some humans to kind of win a prize from a goddess. Which weirdly, you remember the House of Night series? I feel like we might have discussed this before. A lot of the terminology is similar. Like there's a House of Night in this, and there's the same or very similar goddess. So I'm assuming the goddess has something to do with night and vampires, and this is why. But as I'm reading it, I'm like, maybe this is why I understand this book because some of the terminology feels familiar.
I bet it's got loads of references to it, and it's probably got its inspiration from House of Night.
Possibly. This was described to me as Hunger Games with vampires, and it's one of those like competition where people get picked off at every stage and they have different challenges to do. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. And again, it's really long. I'm not good with long books, so I'm working on it. And I'm also going to do some plotting. I'm still kind of because I'm not under deadline with this new book, I'm taking my time to plot it out and not kind of doing it very fast, which is fine because I've got some edits due anytime now. So I'm kind of just plotting a new thing, but knowing that I'm going to have to ditch it in a week or two to work on my edits. And I'm also doing some freelance writing for a client. So I'm going to work on that a little bit as well.
Oh, so you're going to be really productive at the first sprint, and I'm not going to be.
Honestly, this is what sprints are for, isn't it? It's just like it's nice background, isn't it, for when you're getting on with whatever stuff you need to do. Yeah, I'm still at the moment. I'm having some nights off now, which is a first for me, but I'm not having many. I'm still working quite a lot, just because I still have quite limited, like, working time, basically. It's just the way it is at the minute. I know I've got certain projects that need to be done by a certain time, and I don't have a day job as such alongside the writing. I'm doing supply teaching, so that is like I'm dipping in and out of that as and when. So that's pretty.
That's a lot of brain power and emotional power. I mean, like, my God, you can't downplay that. That's still a lot.
But it's not like this week I said I'm not going to do any work just because I've got a school visit on Wednesday and I need to crack on with some writing basically. So yeah, it's a little bit of a juggling act as per usual, but it's fine. This is the way I've worked, and so far it's working out. Let's jump to the comments and then do a sprint. Oh, this is a sad story, Stephen. So recently I looked on eBay because I wanted to see if I had all the Buffy figures, and I was like, I'm just going to see if there's any on there. And there aren't that many on there. They're super expensive. I bought a lot of them new back in the day. So places like Forbidden Planet used to actually sell them when the TV show was on. So I bought quite a lot of them that way. I found some randomly like flea markets in America, and then we had to fly back with them like crammed into our cases. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not that easy to get them now. I'd say just check secondhand places like eBay and just kind of keep an eye on those sorts of websites. Because yeah, they're not as cheap as I used to pay, probably like about a tenner, I think, new. And then I bought quite a lot of them secondhand online for really cheap. Yeah, Kev was saying Comic Con sometimes. So if you go to places like MCM or London Film and Comic Con, in fact, that's what I'm going to do this summer. I'm going to look and see if I've got them all, because I know I have all the Spike ones, or I have all the Spike ones as of last time I checked. Like from the main brands that did them, maybe not the obscure cost a fortune ones. Yeah, fingers crossed, Stephen. Let me know if you manage to track any down anywhere. Hi. Hello. I mean, I'm trying to think. Yeah, the sun was shining and went to the farm, did some writing. I feel like it's been a good day. Hi, Lara. Hi, everyone. I love everybody chatting. Yeah. I mean, it's so bad, isn't it, when there's books? Like, I just read Kingdom of the Wicked for the first time, and I pre-ordered that book, and it's been sitting there on my shelf ever since. And it does get to a point where books start to say, look, you've had me for quite a few years. Can we just, like, make this happen? Because the trilogy's finished now, and I still haven't read it. And I really enjoyed it. I was like, what is wrong that I didn't pick this book up in the first place? Hi, Paula. Oh, we'll have to make sure I'm going to stick Paula's sprints. Can't speak. Stick Paula's sprints on the TV. That was harder to say than it should have been. So as you can hear, my voice is pretty rough tonight. I'm hoping I'll manage for 3 sprints. So usually we do 40 minutes, have a chat, 40 minutes, have a chat, and usually 30, because by the end I'm just incoherent and not actually doing anything productive still. So the first 2 sprints I'll definitely be productive, and by the last one I'll probably be laying flat out and watching TV. So we will see you in 40 minutes. Hello.
Hello.
That seemed to go by way too fast. Why do some sprints do that?
Honestly, don't know.
I managed to get some work done. I got a little bit distracted with various things as well, like being presented with a nice bowl of cold rice pudding, which sounds gross, but when you're really hot, I was like, oh, that's just what I wanted. So I ended up watching some TV and eating that, and then doing work. So how about you? Did you manage to get your dinner eaten?
I did. I ate my dinner and then I sat and watched TikTok, watched some YouTube, and was really just very unproductive in that sprint. But I knew I was going to be, so it's okay.
Yeah, that was the plan, wasn't it, all along? I think if you just know that you're going to have a chilled night, I've just stopped trying to, like, beat yourself up over that. I used to when I was younger, like, feel like a light night off was like weakness and I should always be working hard. And I'm just trying to let go of that as I get older. Like, does it actually matter if you need a night off and you have a night off? Like, it's not hurting anyone.
Yeah.
So that being said, I'm going to try and have one more super productive sprint. I do need to. I'm doing a presentation at the school I'm visiting on Wednesday, and I don't normally do like big assembly events, so I bought a clicker thing, for clicking through a presentation. So the first thing I need to do in this sprint is to check that it works, because if it doesn't, I need to get a new one tomorrow.
Yeah, that's quite important.
So that's my first job, and then I'm going to do some. I've done a bit of freelance work, and I'm going to do some plotting of my new book in the next one. And I think, I don't know, I'm at this weird point. I decided I was going to start working on a new thing, and it's not anything that I've been thinking about for 2 years like I normally ponder something for ages. I just had a new idea, so I've never done this before. I've had to build something completely from zero, and it's hard. Like, when you're writing, do you tend to come up with something and then plunge into it, or do you think about it for a while before you start?
I am a full-on pantser. If I have an idea, I'll write it down and it'll go from there. I don't think I've ever plotted anything like ever that I've written. And I went to uni and did a creative writing degree, so like there were things that they taught you with that, but I was very much like, no, the idea has to run. And I found that if I tried, the idea kind of fizzled out, and then the passion for it kind of fizzled out. And I know that's not usually how writers work, but my brain just kind of is like, no, click onto an idea and then that's it.
I mean, it does for some people. I know Naomi Gibson writes really tight, tensely, like plotted things that seem so intricate. And she just sets off writing with only a vague idea of what this book is about, and she'll write a whole book like that. And I was talking to CJ Tudor recently in an interview, and she said that she can only plot so much, and then she has to write it. And I was like, oh, thank goodness you said that, because that's me. Like, I genuinely can't plot everything. I'm trying for this one, but it's just, I'm getting to points where it's like you said, it's fizzling out. Like, I can't see the next thing. I can't build because there's nothing there to build on. Like, I know people who plot out a whole book and they write like a 20,000 word outline. I think at some point I'm just going to have to do my usual thing and start writing. But what I have got this time is the Save the Cat framework that I'm going to use as a guide. Like, because normally I just kind of figure it out, and that doesn't always help. Like, sometimes I get to the middle of the book and I'm like, oh, the middle's always really hard. Whereas the Save the Cat thing should stop me from having like my usual saggy, don't know what's happening in the middle that always takes me a while to unpick. So I think maybe I do need to like keep at this until my edits come, because I don't really think there's any point in kind of embarking on something new in too much depth. But I think maybe when I've done my edits, I need to just plunge into writing this new thing and like you say, get excited, because I am excited about the idea, but I'm not excited about plotting it out. I'm excited about writing it.
Yeah, no, I like to write mine chronologically as well, which I know, again, like some authors do it, but a lot of authors write bits in between, the middle bit first, then do the intro and the ending. But I like my characters to do things, and like when I edit things, obviously I go back and make sure that there's not massive gaping plot holes. But I just really enjoy going on a journey with a character, and I think a lot of the stuff that I write is so character based because that's where I'm most comfortable, and it's one of the things I love reading about is finding out about new characters. Which is why I'm always heartbroken at the end of series when I'm like, well, now I'm losing you. But no, so I'm a writer for fun. Like, it's not my job, so it's not for me it's kind of like, if this fizzles out and goes nowhere, it doesn't really matter, which is probably why I'm very like, I'll just see what happens.
think that is why people have to push on, because I'm like you. I prefer to write a story in order. And on Mina 3, there was one scene that I got stuck, and I knew it was going to be a bonfire. I knew that the baddies were going to appear at it. And I was like, I've got nothing. I really don't know what this scene is. So I skipped it and went back to it. And actually, I wrote this random line like straight after the scene. I was like, I think that this is what the scene's be about. So Mina reacts to it. And she reacted absolutely spot on to this scene that didn't exist. And it's the only time I've done it because I just didn't know. I really couldn't see that scene, and because I was on a deadline. And I think the people I know that do that, like I know Mia Kushner does that, like she bullet points bits that she doesn't know. She's like, well, I think this is going to happen here, and then she'll write a bit that she does know. And I think that's just because she is on so many tight deadlines, that it's just a way of keeping that forward momentum. Like if you can't sit and ponder it for a few days because you've got to write 5,000 words or something in that few days. Because I tend to write minimum 1,000 words a day if I can while I'm drafting, because I just know that in 3 months I'll have a book in theory. So that is, I think, after I finish these edits, I think that's just what I need to do, 1,000 words a day, and maybe try and do a bit of plotting, because I hear it helps. It's just never worked for me yet. I've always tried it, and I've kind of abandoned it every time.
I think almost if you get to a place you're stuck at, I feel like then you can be like, okay, so I can plot from here. I think maybe like that's a good like happy medium, because I think trying to do it the proper way, like quote unquote proper way, it's different for everyone, and it's a creative process at the end of the day. Like I know so many people who do like YouTube differently, and it's all creative. It's just how people's brains work. So I think there isn't really a proper way. I think there's just the way that works for you. And I've definitely still finding that to actually finish a novel, because that's the thing. I've finished like 2 or 3, but I've started like 7. So it's like, where do I like what happened to those? So
people call me 80% Amy, because I would get so far through a book and then not want to pull the trigger and actually finish it. And I think part of it was like a bit of imposter syndrome, like thinking this thing isn't good enough. I want to get, because I always, like from quite early on into my writing, I knew I wanted an agent. I knew I wanted to get traditionally published. Like that was the goal. So if it wasn't vibing, I just kind of left it. Like I've got this whole fantasy book written that I know needs a ton of work, and at some point I'm going to go back to it. I thought I might do it this year, but I just don't think I've got time now. But I knew at the time it wasn't good enough, so I didn't let anybody read it. Like I've let my agent read the first few chapters just to say, I think I want to write this at some point, like rewrite it. And she was like, yeah, it's good, you should. But I just know it's not what I wanted it to be. Like it didn't work quite. So yeah, it's really hard. I think finishing, the only way I managed that was when I got on Write Mentor, and I literally had to finish the book by a certain date. So I think if you do really, like if you're writing something and you think, yeah, this is the thing I'm going to get published, it's almost like giving yourself a fake deadline, like, and quite a generous one, like in, 6 months time, 8 months time, a year time, this will be ready to do whatever the thing you want to do with it is. Like, because one thing that I didn't do, and I kind of wish in hindsight I had, was enter lots of competitions, because I know lots of people who've had loads of success with that, and I didn't really know about it, I don't think. And a lot of them, like say the Chicken House one, I think they're for unagented, certainly unpublished authors, and like you win a book deal with Chicken House, who are a really good publisher. And I'm not saying I would have won anything like that, but I kind of wish I'd tried and like used my early kind of failed writing attempts that went nowhere. At least I could have tried them on that. So that's stuff like that's good to aim for, I think, as well. Whereas now, obviously, I can't enter anything for an unpublished for a published author. So again, I can't enter anything for an unpublished author because I'm published. So I think that's the only thing that I didn't do on my kind of journey that if I'd known about it at the time, I think I would have done.
Yeah, I entered quite a few like just short story competitions, because short stories for me are one of those that are they're so quick and easy to write, because they don't have to be all that complicated. And actually it was one of my favorite things. So at the moment I'm doing lots of short form fiction, and I'm actually trying my hand back at poetry, because at university I did the slam poetry competition for my university. I actually went and competed, and that was a lot of fun. So I'm going kind of back to what I enjoy, and like spoken word poetry is where I'm really on. I'm also trying again with flash fiction, because my university professor who taught us the flash fiction course is always looking to do anthologies, so he's always at his old class. Like, we get emails from him like nearly every year going, has anyone got anything to submit? And like sometimes he doesn't publish any of us, sometimes he publishes a couple of stories, but because it's flash fiction, it's so quick. Like, I kind of feel like if I spend my time doing that, okay, I've spent an hour, but I've written like 6 different flash fictions. Whereas if I was doing an hour, I'm like, okay, I've written maybe half a chapter now because I'm going back and changing so much.
Well, that's the hard thing, because now I'm at the stage where when I submit stuff, I still tend to submit a full book to publishers just because my agents advise that gives you the best chance. I'm like, yeah, I get that, because if somebody's into it and they know that the whole thing's ready to go, or like ready to edit at least, that is a more tempting prospect. So I'm at a point where I'm like sometimes going to spend months on stuff, and so far I've not written anything that hasn't sold, but I just know at some point I might write something for 3 or 4 or 6 months and then know it's just not going anywhere. Like, I know some brilliant authors that's happened to, like they've got massive deals and stuff since then, but they've had books like die on submission. So I think it's all meant to be fun, isn't it? Like, I do really love writing long form fiction, and I love writing short stories, and
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if it stopped being fun, I would stop doing it. Like, even if it was making me money, I would just not. So I think it's good if you found stuff that's like getting you back into it again. Because I think last time we spoke, you were having like just a kind of hiatus from writing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's it, isn't it? As long as you're enjoying what you do, it doesn't really matter. Because all that matters is that you are enjoying it. I think that's the thing. Like, I want to make sure that I am doing things that I'm enjoying and not just doing them because I feel like I should. And like that's really the mentality I'm trying to take now, is that like if I'm not enjoying a book, I'm just gonna DNF it. If I'm not enjoying a series, I'm not just gonna force my way through it. Like, for a long time I did that because I thought, it's rude, it's disrespectful, but I'm actually like, no, art is so subjective, and it's just remembering that each story is for someone else.
Well, it is, and it's how you feel at that time. Like, sometimes I've given up on a TV show or a film or a book just because either something's triggered me and I've gone, nope, not today. That's not the thing for me today. Or it's just like a time of my life thing where I just don't get it. And then I've come back to it later and gone, oh yeah, like at the minute, I'm not vibing with much middle grade unless it's like super creepy or something like that grabs me. Like, contemporary middle grade is just not doing it. I'm like, oh, have I moved out of my, like, I'm officially too far from the middle grade era? And I know lots of adults still read middle grade, but for me, I think I've just had a shift now, and I'm reading more adult fiction and still a lot of YA, but I think maybe I've finally become an adult in my reading taste. Like literally, adult fiction seems to be calling to me the most at the moment, and then like select YA.
Yeah, I'm really into my adult literary fiction at the moment. I'm really drawn to.
I had a literary moment in my 20s. That was my literary fiction era. Like, I read so much of it.
I'm so shocked because, like, I don't like contemporary romance as much. And there's lots of elements of literary fiction that has a lot of contemporary romance within it. And I'm just I'm loving nearly every literary book I pick up. And I'm still loving my horror. I'm still loving my fantasy. I'm still loving my smart books. But, like, there's very specific things about literary fiction that just speak to me. And I don't know whether I'm just going through, a little bit of a crisis. I don't know. But there's stuff in literary fiction I'm like, oh, no, I love it so much. But I also am really loving some middle grades, because sometimes I just want to switch my brain off and not have to think very hard. And middle grade is perfect for that. They're such good, like, little palette cleansers. And there are some absolutely fantastic new middle grades coming out. But I'm like you, I love a good horror middle grade. Like, The Haunting of Evelyn Jones is still one of my favorites. I think that's a wonderful.
I bought it after you recommended it. I bought it, and it's still sitting there amongst all the other unread books. So I need to read it at some point. Yeah, I don't know. I think the conclusion of this is to just read and write what makes you happy, isn't it? And as soon as it stops doing, like, that's what I'm going to figure out with this book. I think it's going to make me happy when I start writing it, because it's got everything in that ticks my boxes, but the plotting just is a bit soul-sucking. So yeah, I'm going to do a bit, but then I think I also I want to watch a bit more stuff, like, because the murder mystery element is what I always find really difficult in my books, and I keep writing them, so I'm like, I think I need to work on my craft a little bit with that. Like, just pick some really good ones and see like what made this really good, because I think I get there in the end, but I find it hard. Whereas the romance and the friendship stuff, and the other things I'm just fine, and they're just innately there in my
Yeah.
writing. Murder mystery, I'm like, oh, what do you do to solve a murder again? Like, where do they go? Who do they like? I find that really hard. So I think maybe that's what I need to do with this as well. That's why I'm struggling. I need to like just reacquaint myself with this is how you write and solve a mystery.
Yeah. Well, there's so much like true crime stuff, murder mystery like shows
Yeah.
out. Like at the moment, they seem to be everywhere.
Yeah. And I think at the moment is why I want to write. Like, there's always going to be some murder mystery element, I think. But this new book as well is a bit ambitious in different ways too. So I think I'm just a bit scared of it. I need to just probably just bite the bullet and write it. But that being said, should we go and do sprint? I think the comments have gone quiet. So
Yeah, why not?
thank you everybody for watching along. You know, you're not required to participate. It's lovely just to know there's people there. So we'll do another 40-minute sprint. And Kev may appear at some point to help me with my computer, trying to make my PowerPoint thing work. And then I'm going to concentrate, do some plotting. So your reading goes well, and I'll see you in a little. Hello.
Hello.
Me by surprise. I was like doing some plotting and half watching Alias, like half playing, half watching Alias. I'm like rewatching it. And yeah, the 40 minutes just passed, and then the next thing I knew, I was like, "Ooh, meow." How did you get on?
I read about a chapter of Ithaca. It's good. It's interesting, but I think I have read quite a lot of Greek retellings recently, and I've liked them a bit more than this. I think I might come back to this one later, so it's like I put down for now. Just because I'm just not. Whenever I pick it up and read it, I don't read very much of it. Like I'm now on page like 15. Like I've hardly touched it, and I'm just like, I shouldn't be struggling this much at all.
It does sound like you've read too many. I did that with YA thrillers. I was having a real YA thriller moment last year, and I still love them, and I still think they're probably one of my favorite genres. But I read like several in a row, and it was almost like it then ruined it for me because I was like, oh, I'm too familiar with the tropes of this. I need like a little break. And I think I haven't read one for a while, and I'm now starting to think, I just got sent to YA thriller. Maybe I'll read it. I just needed like a good chunk of books in between to kind of forget why I liked it again.
Yeah. I think the other thing is I really like Natalie Haynes. Like I've really got into her writing style for these types of books. And like Claire North is not a bad writer by any stretch. That's not what I mean. It's just the way I'm very used to Natalie Haynes' authorial voice, I think. And this is very different. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not what I'm used to, I think. So I think part of it might be that I'm struggling with. But I think it's okay because I think I'm going to move on to a middle game and just start it and see how I get on. Because if I don't get on with this, I'm almost going to think that maybe I need to stop trying to force myself to read physically at the moment. So I kind of think that's what is going to be the test. If I can get some of this read, then it might be that I'm just not in the mood for it, or I should just read something different for a bit. I don't know.
Yeah, reading's a weird one, isn't it? Because it is, like we said earlier, meant to be fun, but I think so much like media and being a YouTuber doesn't help either because it kind of comes to certain expectations. I think that you're gonna have lots to say about books and want to read all the time, and sometimes you just don't want to read. And you have a BookTube, a Bookstagram, and you just don't feel it, especially physical books. Like I'm really enjoying my Kindle at the moment, and I had a point of not being into my Kindle, and I'm like back into it again. And now I'm looking at all these physical books, thinking, I just want to buy more Kindle books. So yeah, I think I always switch up the format I'm reading in if I'm not feeling it, switch up the book, and if you've tried all those things and you just kind of don't get anywhere, it's like don't feel bad, just do something else.
Yeah, I like playing on my Switch and just listening to audiobooks. Like that's like my favorite things to do. Like if I'm watching sprints, that's what I generally do. Is I'll put on Dreamlight Valley or Animal Crossing or something. I'll just sit and listen.
Dreamlight Valley killed my reading from about Christmas to February just because I couldn't stop playing on it. And it's just like you're consuming story, aren't you, in a different way? And that was all I wanted to do. So like whenever I'd got a spare, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, I was just picking up Dreamlight Valley. So I think that's why my reading took a bit of a dive beginning of the year as well, because I was enjoying that. And there's nothing wrong with that, is there? Like just kind of take a break, do something. Whereas now I'm not off Dreamlight Valley, but I'm playing it maybe once a week when I feel like it, rather than going, oh my God, I need my fix of Dreamlight Valley today.
Well, they keep on doing little updates, and I'm just like, please stop doing the updates, because as soon as a new patch note comes in, a new update comes in, I'm like, all I want to do is read that now. It's like, we'll play that, and like try and find all the new little adventures, and I'm just like, this is awful. I need to stop. I need to stop.
I restarted it because there are a few things that I did. Like there's a Mickey Mouse mission. Have you seen like the door one where you can put the thing in wrong and then it seems like Disney just can't / won't correct that.
Yeah.
And I did that wrong. So I was like, well, I can't finish that one. And then there are a few other things I was like, actually, I kind of messed up there. Like I did a thing with upgrading my house where I spent too much money upgrading it in loads of different directions. I was like, oh my God, why did I do this? I just kept clicking okay with all this money I'd got. And I was like, I think I need to just, now I understand the game, actually. I did the same with Animal Crossing, like restart it, kind of knowing after the benefit of playing it for a couple of months, like I actually understand what I was meant to do now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the other thing. Like, I try not to spend too much money. Like, obviously, the base game was quite expensive because it's Disney. I kind of knew that. I bought that like months ago. But like, obviously, the big new patch was a Rift in Time, and I spent money on that, and it is worth it. Like, that's one thing I will say. Like, Disney has packed full of stuff. Like, that's something I don't think is a bad thing. But it does cost a lot of money to keep it going well and like nicely, and to get all like the really cool stuff. You have to put a lot of money into it, which I think is a bit.
Is that new like missions and stuff then that you have to pay money for? Because I haven't done that yet.
The Rift in Time pack is a you have to buy it, but it has got all the missions for that, and it's updated the same way the base game's updated.
Okay.
You get a whole new island to like unlock. Like it's a beefy update to it, but it costs the money, and you expect it to. But it again though, it is definitely worth it. And there are obviously things you can buy, you know, because you can buy your gems, and your gems will unlock a bunch of stuff. But that's the same as the base game, and you don't have to do that for it to work. So
yeah, maybe I'll exhaust the game as much as I can on this playthrough, and then maybe invest in that at some point, because they do sales every now and again, don't they, in the store? I think I might just do that.
Definitely, I definitely recommend it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not having a super obsessed moment with it because I think I'm just really busy. I'm feeling slightly spread too thin, but it's fine. I'm coping. But I just think that playing gaming is one extra thing that I know will slip. And it's sad because it's something that I really enjoy, and you know, it's one of my relaxing things.
Yeah.
That being said, I feel like playing Dreamlight Valley now, but I'm going to resist because I've just got into a bit of a swing with my plotting. I think that I'm kind of on a thread now where I think I've got to exhaust this thread that I'm on, and then probably just start writing it, because I think my edits realistically probably aren't going to come for 2 weeks. So I might actually be able to get a little bit done in that time and send it to my agent and say, can you read this while I'm doing my edits? So yeah, I think maybe that's the thing, because you've convinced me. I think just kind of flogging the plotting thing when it's not my thing is probably not. It always feels like I'm punishing myself and waiting to write.
Yeah, you're just delaying the bit you enjoy.
Yeah, no, and I think I keep looking at it thinking that I'll get more out of this if I keep trying harder, and the trying harder isn't really producing any different results. Isn't that an Einstein quote? Insanity is like doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I need to stop expecting different results and just write the book. Okay, I think we should do the last sprint. Again, the comments is just quiet, which is fine. So let's just jump in. I'm going to do 30 minutes because I think I'm going to go to bed at the end of the 30 minutes. I'm pretty tired.
Yeah, I'm already in bed, so I'll probably just turn my light off and just turn my laptop off and just...
Perfect. I just need to stagger upstairs, brush my teeth, and then I'm there. I've already taken my contact lenses out, so I'm like halfway through my bedtime routine. I always cleanse my face at the end of the day, but the other stuff that is sitting there, like all my beauty products, generally I'm too tired to actually use them on a night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll just crawl upstairs after this 30 minutes. So I'll see you in a bit.
See you in a bit.
No, I think it's probably for the best that was last sprint. I was so flagging by the end of that. I kind of got halfway through and ran out of steam, but I've made some good progress tonight, so I'm happy.
That's good. That's really good.
I think I am to try writing the beginning of it maybe, and just use that to feel my way through the world, because I've got enough bits now, I think. But maybe just try not. I think what I've done in the past is forged ahead, even if something's not working, and got in a real pickle. I think what I need to do is maybe just be a bit slower about drafting, and because I'm not under any deadline pressure like with the Mina books, I just had to push on and worry about it and fix it later, and it always worked out, but it was stressful. So I'd rather write it a bit more like what I want the first draft, preferably. We'll see.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad you've got to a point where you think you might start writing it.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe Thursday sprint. In fact, tomorrow I have a bit of writing time. I might even have a little play tomorrow and see. How about you? You started reading? I want to call it Middle March. That's not the name of it. Middle Game.
Yeah. So what's really interesting? So I read. So Sean Maguire has a pen name, which is a Deborah. What is it? Wait. I was about to do something really clever, and then my brain decided it didn't want to be clever. A Deborah Baker, and I've read the novel that's in this. It's a novel, so it's Over the Woodward Wall, and I've just had the first excerpt of it, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is how it's going to be told in here. And I know that the reason Sean Maguire actually eventually wrote Over the Woodward Wall is because people wanted to join the dots in here. So now I'm going to be have read it the wrong way around, because I'll have read the insert and then the novel.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be interesting though, because a lot of people will have done it the other way around, so you will get a kind of flipped experience from what a lot of people have.
Yeah, and it's also really weird because this book starts at the end. So the first chapter is book 7, and it's the end, and it's kind of playing around with timelines, which is kind of cool, because we do eventually get back to book 1, and that's really interesting. I'm already really invested, and I think this is what I needed, because I'm now 20 odd pages in that first sprint, so I'm just yes.
Well, that was a shorter sprint too. In 40 minutes, you read a lot less of the other one, so I think probably that sounds like you need to dive into this book and use that to kind of pull you back into reading.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to read to the end of the chapter before I go to bed, probably, because there's not much left of the chapter. Well, I say that there's another 20 pages to the end of the chapter, but I think I don't want to stop in the middle, because I seem to be stopping in the middle chapters a lot recently, and I'm just why am I doing that?
I find it so annoying, because what I also do is quite often somehow stop on the second page, and then I'll be reading the first page the next time, pick it up, and I'm like, I've already read this. What am I doing to myself?
Yeah.
So yeah, I much prefer reading to the end of a chapter, which is why I like short chapters, because you can read 1 if you want, but you could also read 5 and still get to a satisfying point to stop at.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The first few chapters were only a couple of pages each. I think that's obviously to build up the tension, and they're not hugely long chapters. They seem to range. The chapter I'm about to go on to is only 4 pages long. So I think I quite like the mix of longer and shorter chapters.
Yeah,
they seem a lot more digestible. And I know Sean Maguire is very particular about their structure as well. It'll be for a reason, which I'm just really loving. So I'm all in all, this was a great idea to pick this up, and I should have picked it up way earlier.
That's so good. I picked up one of their books. Something about an Armageddon, Discount Armageddon. Is that a Sean Maguire book?
Discount Armageddon? I'm going to look in the...
I feel like it might be. Have I got the right person? Let me look it
yes,
up.
the Encrypted series, yeah.
Yeah, so that was one that somebody, I think when I was looking for some urban fantasy, somebody recommended that. And of course, have not read it, bought it, bought a load of urban fantasy books and read a few of them. And then, because it was after I'd read True Blood and I was suffering a really bad book hangover and I needed more urban fantasy. And I think that's what that one is.
Yeah, I think also might be a fantasy, but it's got some thriller horror elements in it. But I think it is a fantasy. But I always thought, looking at the cover, I wouldn't have put that as a fantasy.
No, that screams horror to me, that cover.
So,
But disembodied hand with kind of candles on it.
but I don't know. It's about the power of words, so I think that can always get a little bit creepy anyway.
Yeah.
So if it's fantasy with some creepiness, I'm still here for it.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it, and I think it's a little bit dystopian sci-fi as well. So I'm kind of like, I think it's a mixture of things. So I'm really excited. So I'm really happy I've actually picked it up.
I like that. Who's it published by?
It's published by Tor.
Do you know what I was going to say? Is it Tor, Orbit, or Titan? Because lately I've been finding, particularly Titan, I think it is, their genre bending stuff I really like. I like the fact that those publishers are willing to go there, because I think recently I've been finding that like certain ones, I don't want a thriller to just be a thriller quite often. I want it to have some horror. I want it to have other stuff. And I think some publishers like their stuff to just be one genre.
Mm-hmm. I'm a massive fan of Titan books. Titan are one of my favorite publishers. I think the books they have on their like catalog is absolutely incredible. And a lot of like the kind of weird body horror stuff they do, I'm really drawn to it. So usually if Titan publishes something, I'm like, yes, I'm here. Like they publish my favorite author in the UK, so they have published Christina Henry.
Okay.
They publish all her works, so I kind of am like, I'm so drawn to Titan books. I'm like, yes.
I've got one of hers. I want to say it's something about Good Girls. I always get the Good Girls books mixed up because there's quite a few. I feel like the Good Girls either die last or first, or is there a Good Girls one? Yeah, I think it's something about, let me just look it up. Good. Oh gosh, because I'm streaming, my internet's really slow. Good Girls, Christina Henry. I'm sure. Yeah, she's on my list. I have had a real binge of Rachel Harrison lately, and Christina Henry's on my list. Yeah, Good Girls Don't Die. That's it.
Oh yeah, that's the newer one, isn't it?
Yeah, I have that, and I think there's quite a few authors this year that've got books coming out that are like plays on horror films. I think she might be one of them. Like Paul Tremblay's got one called, is it How to Survive a Horror Movie or something?
Yeah.
I get really mixed up because there's Craig Dillewy's got one. He wrote episode 13 that I really enjoyed. Paul Tremblay's got one, and I think she's got one, and they're all like riffs on something to do with horror movies. So I can't remember which one hers is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think my favorite one that kind of does that is My Heart of the Chainsaw. I've just read the third book, the Reaper, no, not the Reaper. No, I've just got the Angel of the Lake, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so excited to get to that one because I've read the Don't Fear the Reaper, and Stephen Graham Jones is just fantastic at knowing horror movies and classic horror movie tropes. And that's I
was buddy reading that one, so I was the third one, The Angel of Indian Lake. But my buddy's dropped out; she's not into it, and I really like it. So I've been reading it really slowly to kind of let my buddy read catch up. So I'm going to plow ahead. I think now that I've kind of got the go. I think I'd read about 100 pages, but like we'd been reading in really small increments, and I think obviously she just wasn't feeling it. So I'm going to try and just get on with that myself. I've ended up having a few blurb requests this month, and I think, have I finished the last one now? Oh, so this randomly I've agreed to be on a blog tour, and I don't normally do blog tours, but I really wanted this book, and the only way they were going to send it was, I was like on a book bang bam, and the only way they were going to send it is to do a blog tour. So I'm randomly doing an Instagram tour, which I haven't done for years, and as you know, I'm going to have to really blitz because it's on Friday. So I've got to really motor with this book, and I'm enjoying it, but I just haven't had much time. So I've had a weird month of only reading stuff that, like, I've been told to read. And I really want to finish The Angel of Indian Lake, and I really want to read Kendara Blake's new Buffy book. Yeah. Because normally I would read that the second it turned up, and I just had to put it on the shelf. Like, I've got too many things to read.
Heartbreaking.
I know. So I think I'm going to finish this for Friday, and then probably jump onto Kendara Blake's book, and then probably jump back onto Angel of Indian Lake. So by which point I'll have forgotten, I imagine, the beginning of the book.
Oh, that's right. You just get to reread it again. Reread the beginning.
I'm just sad that they don't seem to have an audiobook for that. Let me know if you find one, because in the US it's accessible, but in the UK I can't find it anywhere.
I know. If it had been an audio, I'd have read it immediately. I could have just put it on and read it. But they
It
don't
was
seem
so
to, and I
good.
don't know if they're just way far behind on not releasing the audio,
I
because
don't
the other
know.
ones are on Scribd or Everand or whatever it was, but not that one. And I was like, what? Why? Where
I've
where
been
is it?
subscribed, I've been subscribed to Audible for years, and I occasionally pause it if I like get a backlog of books. I got the first two on there, and it was a really good production. And they came on like if you pre-ordered, they came like on delivery day of the book because I ordered the book and the audio, so I'd have both. And this one just didn't have one, but initially there was going to be because I'd hit pre-order and then it got cancelled. So I don't know whether it just didn't get picked up in the UK, which seems odd because it was trending on Twitter when the book came out. Like books don't generally trend on Twitter. It must have been massive, and it's just
Yeah, it's bizarre to me that there isn't one yet.
especially because my friend in the US was listening to it.
Yeah,
She was reading it, so it got released on publication day there, like the others did. So there must have been some weird, they sometimes have agreements about like sharing media and stuff. So maybe some weird thing happened with the UK. I don't know.
yeah,
Anyway,
don't know.
I think it's time to go to bed and it's time for you to do more reading. So thank you. It's been lovely. I wasn't feeling that motivated tonight, and it has just kept me on track. And thank you everybody who's been watching. Comments have sort of dropped off, and the viewers have it's gone down to just a couple of people. So thank you to people who've stayed and followed us to the end. I will be doing sprints on Thursday, my usual day, and then I'm just trying to drop in odd ones when I feel like it. So thanks, Lizzie. It's been lovely to catch up with you. Thank you, everybody else watching, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye.